This Hyundai Santa Fe 2020. This Bruce knows. Let's go. This is a 2020 Hyundai Santa Fe. It's the basest of model, but it's got a 2.4 liter 4-cylinder, about 185 horsepower, 170 pounds of torque. Other than that, I gotta tell you, this Santa Fe is not that good. The rental agency I rented it from, not that good. Rental business in general, fraught with danger. You gotta be careful. I'll tell you why. Let me tell you a story about the dirtiest business in the world, the rental car business. I did what everybody else does. I went online and I reserved a Toyota Corolla type thing for like $15 a day, which is what you would call a teaser rate. I had a contract for 3 days for that Corolla, and I upgraded to the Hyundai Santa Fe, which is what I'm driving right now. In the hustle and bustle of changing from my reservation to the actual vehicle that I was taking, they changed my rental agreement from 3 days to 4 days. Here's the thing about rental agencies. No business can survive on $15 a day renting a car. They're gonna screw you one way or another. We take the Santa Fe out, we put like 700 miles on it in 3 days. I go to return it today, and the guy's like, oh yeah, great. You have an extra day, and you know, we don't refund you for early returns. And I'm like, well, what extra day? I find out the extra day. I show him my reservation, original reservation for 3 days. Doesn't matter, because that's not the reservation. That reservation got tossed when I got the new vehicle. So I'm on the hook for 4 days. And in the spirit of getting screwed over by a rental agency, I'm gonna tell you a story about one of the times that I would say that we probably took advantage of a rental company. So I was in college in New York City. My sister was visiting, and she was staying in the World Trade Center. There used to be a hotel in that building. So I was hanging out with her in the hotel room, and a friend of mine calls me from Boston. He was in college in Boston, to tell me that they were going to be driving to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. Let me tell you, if anybody ever calls you and offers you a trip to Mardi Gras, take him up on it. So I jumped at this chance. They swung by down from Boston. They picked me up in New York City. They rented a Dodge Caravan. It was like a 92, the little egg-shaped one with a really nice interior. So we all get in, and he had 3 friends with him there. And I didn't know them, but it didn't matter. It's good to have many people because you're gonna share driving duties. And it's a long drive. I think it's like 900 miles each way. So on the drive down, I didn't drive at all. We got pulled over twice in the state of Mississippi. Only place we got pulled over. Mississippi is a heavily patrolled state. So we drive down there. The whole plan, beginning to end, is we're just gonna find a place to park the minivan that doesn't get towed. We're gonna get hammered. We're not gonna eat because we don't have bathrooms. We don't have a hotel reservation. This is before GPS. This is before cell phones. This is before the internet. So basically, we parked this minivan in this crappy area of New Orleans. Basically, it's the shipping area where stray dogs go to die. And so we parked there. Let me tell you, the problem with Mardi Gras, at least back then, is that it was so full that you would get like scrunch up in the crowds, and they would pick you up and take you in different directions, and you would lose your friends. And again, no cell phones or anything, so you would lose your friends. And that happened to us the first night. Mardi Gras was pretty nasty. It was, you know, naked people everywhere, making out, puking, doing all sorts of drugs all over the place. It was a scene. I managed to find the minivan like at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, and there were a couple of the guys were there already. So we all slept sitting up. The next morning, as you can imagine, we were a wreck. And so we tried to find a hotel room so that we could, you know, catch a nap or at least take a shower. So we find We find a motel that is willing to let us take a shower, and that's it. The guy's like, you know, give me $40. Somebody checked out of the room, hasn't been cleaned. You can use it to use the showers and get out of there. So we went in this random person's used hotel room to take a bath and leave. I mean, just, that's nasty, but that's what was going on. And soon thereafter, my friend, the original who invited me, he got sick from, you know, from all the partying and the lack of sleep, and he took a flight back to, I think back to Boston, but he might have gone back home because he was in need of medical assistance. So I stayed there with the other 3 guys, and the next day, you know, that day we're just partying it up. At night, again, everybody got separated, everybody got lost. Finally, at like 2 a.m., I managed to find my way back to the minivan, and I get in there and I catch an hour or 2 of sleep, and I get woken up by the other 3 guys showing up. And so, you know, it was time to go home. Essentially, everybody was partied out. And since I was the one who had a couple hours of sleep, it meant that I was the one in best shape to drive. So I drove, let's say we took off like at 3 in the morning, and I drove 12 hours straight to until 3 or 4 p.m. and I made it all the way to Virginia. How I did that was, everybody was asleep and I just pegged the pedal to the floor, and I had that minivan going 118, which was the speed limiter of the van. It couldn't go any faster. And the way up, there were no cops in Mississippi because it was, you know, like 5 in the morning when I was flying through Mississippi, and there were no cops around. Finally, at like 4 p.m., I go to the back of the minivan to take a nap, and I figure by the time I wake up in a couple of hours, we'll be in New York. So I wake up like 3-4 hours later. It's nighttime, and we are in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, what happened? Well, this a-hole, his sister lived in a neighborhood, and she was like, oh, I would love to see you. Yeah, drive by and I'll make you sandwiches, and that'll be worth adding 4 hours to your trip. We leave her house probably like at 9 p.m. It was just like ridiculous. So we made it home, and that was essentially the end of my trip. I know one of them bought a radar detector for the trip in Circuit City, store that doesn't exist anymore. And he returned it, and I know that they returned the minivan, and there were no overages for the cleaning of it or any damage or the amount of miles that we put in. We did, I think, like 1,900 miles in it, and I can't really express to you over video the smell in there, but let me try to walk you through it. So you got 5 teenagers without, you know, just sweaty ass, swamp ass teenagers who all those guys, they all smoked. So that minivan smelled like a full ashtray that was full of water that had been tipped over on the carpet. Added to that, they also had bongs. So of course the bongs spilled over a couple times. So the van smelled like wet ashtrays and wet bong water. That's the smell, plus teenage sweat and tears. It smelled really bad, but no harm, no foul. Before I get into the bad stuff, it's not all doom and gloom. The vehicle is, it's a decent highway runner. It gets up to like 120 miles per hour, which is surprising considering the engine size. The adaptive cruise control works like a charm, and you can adjust the distance that it'll keep to the car in front of you up to 100 miles per hour, surprisingly. And it's very spacious for the footprint. The back seat is super comfortable. You know, the ride is very smooth. The fuel economy is giving us like 24 miles to the gallon, which is pretty good for a vehicle this size. But that's where it ends, because as you can hear, the noise it's very loud. It's got 57,000 miles. It's Florida plated. I'm in Florida. Conceivably, this car's been on the best roads in the United States the entire life of it, and it's got some squeaks and rattles. Things are broken. There's trim pieces missing outside. So, you know, it's not very reassuring how good it's going to hold up in the long run. It's about as reassuring as finding blood in your stool. Plus, the aforementioned squeaks and rattles makes me think that this thing is probably not that well put together. All right, so that concludes the video. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember to subscribe and comment below what you think of this video, and check back soon because more videos are coming. Thank you.